Hi, I'm Mason Weaver, and let's talk about Pulp Detective. First things first, I'm not a video reviewer. I'm not a Kickstarter project previewer either, but Pulp Detective is a game that I've been really passionate about for the last 2 years, and I'm very excited that the campaign is finally here, which is why you're watching me talk about it. Pulp Detective is a solo noir investigation game from designer, graphic artist, woodworker, poet, and my friend Todd Sanders. You may know Todd from some of his other games, They Who Were Eight, Mr. Cabbage Has a Garden, or The Draeger. Todd designs contemplative, introspective, and very thoughtful hobby games. I've described Todd's work in the past as subtly complex and complexly subtle, and I think that Pulp Detective really lives up to that. So in Pulp Detective, you are navigating this world of classic American detective fiction. Think Raymond Chandler, Dorothy Hughes, Jim Thompson, Patricia Highsmith, or maybe Dashiell Hammett. You're drawing cards, you're deciding which clues and leads to follow, rolling dice and trying to match the symbols on those investigation cards. If you fail and lose the thread of the case, it's going to cost you time, stamina, but if you unclever the clues and find informants, then good things are going to happen and you can solve the case. You only have 24 hours to solve each case, and time really marches relentlessly forward in Pulp Detective. No matter what, you're going to lose an hour every turn, and the ticking clock gives Pulp Detective a sense of dread and tension that I think is uncommon in other solo games. You should be prepared that Pulp Detective is extremely difficult. This is not a casual resource management solo experience. You are not trying to beat your own high score. You are always hanging by a thread in Pulp Detective. I played about a dozen times, and I've only ever won once, and that was on the beginner level. I've never played down on the beginner level. I'm sure I would lose every time on the other levels. There are 8 different investigators to choose from, and each of them has a slightly different special ability. Some let you roll an extra die, get extra information, or use the extra symbols you roll as wilds. The custom dice are sort of the heart of gameplay in Pulp Detective. They're all weighted slightly differently, and a lot of the strategy is about deciding which die to re-roll and when to do it. I've been playing my print-and-play copy for about 6 months, but the prototype preview copy I have came with these beautiful set of custom dice. They feel great, they're clear, easy to read. And the other part of Pulp Detective is, of course, the cards. At the very beginning of every turn, you're going to draw these 3 cards and look at their backs. You have to decide which to discard, which to shuffle back in, and then which to play in front of you. The backs are marked with these different card types, informants, leads, and cliffhangers, each of which really gives you different rewards and require different dice results. Most likely, once you've discarded a card, you probably won't see it again, so you have to make these really careful choices, or you can end up on the wrong path with absolutely no hope of survival. The thing is that you won't know until it's too late to do anything about it. All the art in Pulp Detective is, I think, very cleverly reused from classic crime paperbacks from the 40s and 50s, but Todd's graphic design keeps the information you need clear and accessible while still allowing all the art to shine through. I think it's too often the case with a theme like noir to rely on lazy generalizations, half-remembered one-dimensional tropes, which is basically like every game about gangsters ever. But in Pulp Detective, Todd's literary knowledge and very clear love for this classic crime fiction is totally evident. I'm a big fan of both Dashiell Hammett and Jim Thompson, and playing the game really feels like reading a noir thriller. Mechanically and visually, Pulp Detective is just a pitch-perfect and deeply thoughtful synthesis of American crime novels. I've mostly played the base game, but there's loads of other content for Pulp Detective. The Double Cross expansion adds special events, and the Sidekicks and Masterminds expansion adds assistants and some very difficult baddies. I am nowhere near ready to add this content until I get much better and can win some more games of Pulp Detective, but the extra content should keep the game fresh for a very long time. There are also some 2-player variants in the rulebook for both co-op and competitive play, as well as an option to build a storyline-style tableau with your investigation cards. Personally, I love how compact Pulp Detective is on the table, so I've only tried any of these variants once. So, who should buy Pulp Detective? People who like difficult solo games. People who don't mind a bit of chance. People who want a quick, medium-weight weeknight solo experience. And people who absolutely love classic crime fiction. I give Pulp Detective 10 out of 10 kidnapped millionaires rescued from the mob by Velda Scott, private investigator. I'm Mason Weaver. You can hear me on the 5 by, a rapid-fire board game podcast, 5bygames.com. You can also find me on Twitter @DiscountCompost.